Today I'm going to show you how to produce in the style of LANY. I literally love this band so much. Like, Malibu Nights is literally one of my favorite albums ever, to the point where I bought it in the weird vinyl color. It's just so dreamy and awesome, and the melodies and production are just amazing. So I'm going to walk you through one of the tracks that I made in this style and show you how you can make it at home. But before we jump into that, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Seth. I work as a remote pop completion producer, meaning I specialize in taking artists' song ideas and turning them into finished productions ready for release on Spotify. I do one of these videos every Thursday to show people how they can produce their own pop music at home. Music I've produced and written have been featured on these playlists, and I've done a whole album through Warner Music Group. So if you have a pop vision that you'd like to get started, check out the top link in the description, and we can get started on your idea. So let's jump into the track. All right, here is the track. There are a lot of tracks with this one. A lot of them are bounced down stems, but yeah, I will just show you what it sounds like. All right, so I'll start jumping into all the elements that we have going on here. I would say the main moving part is this synth part here, which is actually just this one MIDI pattern here, but it's duplicated across 3 different synth patches. By the way, some of these are frozen because I don't have these synthesizers anymore. So if I want to keep this sound active, I need to keep it frozen. So the first sound we have is this guy here. Sort of a soft Juno patch, very ambient, very 80s, and very fun. Then we have this guy, which is a patch from Anna 2, more of a plucky sound, trying to get more attack. And then I think we have that exact same patch here, but an octave down, just to add a little more beef below it. And as you can see, all 3 of these are EQ'd very differently. I find that when I'm blending synth patches together, it's really important to go through each one and decide, okay, what aspect am I trying to use this for? Am I trying to use this for body in the low mid range? Am I using this for attack? Because once you isolate the aspect of what you're using it for, you can actually use an EQ and cut out the other aspects that might be muddying up the mix, so that when you combine it all together, it just sounds like one big moving instrument. All these guys are running into a bus with OTT on it. Quite a bit of OTT, actually. 15% is a lot when you just use the default setting. And then a bit of a high pass. And if you're looking for more of an 80s style reverb, I would highly recommend this one. This is the Towel Reverb 4. And it's awesome because it's actually free. Without it, with, just adds so much space and color to it. We also have this Juno Pad playing right here. Just doing kind of like a whiny, high-pitched pad, just to add a little bit of resonance in the high end. After those synths, we have this lead line, which is made up of 3 elements. We have this lead guitar. Yeah, we're using Guitar Rig 5 with this Prince in the Rain preset, very chorusy and clean, going into some L1 and some ROM reverb to add that shimmery reverb sound. We are then taking that exact same guitar patch and we're playing an octave low. Again, just to add some width to it. And then we're doubling those guys with this repro patch. Very retro lead sound, but it's actually buried just underneath those other leads. And it looks like we did a little bit of EQ and some JST clip to make the whole lead stand out a little bit more. Clipping is actually a really awesome thing to do when you want something to stand out a little bit in the mix in terms of like harmonic excitement, but you don't really want a super audible change without. With. It just brings it a little bit forward. After that, we have the bass, which is this essential preset on Anna 2, which I love. And something I'm doing on this is I'm using the utility plugin in Ableton to make the bass mono below 164 hertz. It's a great way to make sure you don't lose any power in the low end when you have something like a super chorusy wide stereo bass. And then I'm high passing a little bit to make room for the kick, using some soothe on the kick, sidechain to the fundamental. So every time the kick drum hits the fundamental of the kick drum is actually pulled out of the synth bass, which keeps the low end nice and clean. And then it looks like I did a little bit of L1. Just attenuating a tiny bit for those moments when it sort of flutters a bit with the volume. Then we have this vocal chop. It's frozen right now, but I can tell you exactly what it is. It's arcade on the distant voices line. A lot of people love the hooked line for stuff like this, but I honestly prefer the distant voices because I always get a lot more, I don't know, just fun melodies out of them. But yeah, here we're just doing some JST clip, again, to bring out those harmonics a little bit, some reverb, and then some one knob pumper after the reverb. So you can hear it's not just a sidechained vocal chop with a reverb on it. This sidechain is actually affecting the reverb as well. Really love that sound. And then we have some guitars. These guys are actually operating more as sort of like low range pads. So we have this guy here, which has so much processing on it. It's using the driver plugin from Native Instruments with a ton of saturation, but then we've filtered out a lot of those annoying frequencies, done some notching, made it super wide, and then did the same sort of sidechain reverb trick to give it this really high-end excitement, make it really wide, but then also have that pumping on the sides. And then below it, we have a basic 16th note pluck on a Strat. So these two together, they just add a lot of ambience to the track. You can hear when I actually take them out. There's nothing wrong with it, but when I throw them in, it just fills it up a bit more. And then finally, we are looking at drums. A lot of these are bounced down stems, but I can almost guarantee a lot of them were going to be from this Televisor New Disco Dynamic pack from Black Octopus. It's a really great pack for this sort of like new disco sound. So first we have this kick drum. We have a little bit of max bass on it to sort of boom that low end up. And then I have a gated reverb sound, but just on the kick. Then we have the snare. Sort of Lynn drummy, super 80s, basic hi-hat. I believe with this one, I actually only had one sample. It was like a tss. And so to make it sort of have this chugging motion, I took that sample, duplicated it, and then pitched it down a little bit. So it tss, and then I just made that a loop. Sort of emulates the way that a drummer actually approaches playing a hi-hat. Then below it, we have this other hi-hat, which is just this super synthetic, like 16th note thing. It's like da-da-da-da-da-da. And it just adds a bunch of movement when you layer it in underneath the mix. Under the snare, we have some claps layered. So we have this guy. It looks like they both have Verb Suite on them from Slate Digital on like sort of a gated reverb sound. So the first clap we have is this guy, which is just kind of a basic clap. And then we also have this guy, which is more of a white noise clap thing. But when you blend all these snares and claps together, it just has this pop that's very 80s-like and really makes it stand out in the mix. Also, I knew that I wanted a fill, like a tom fill. So I grabbed some one-shots of toms and I just made a fill out of them. It was pretty easy because they were one-shots. But yeah, it's the one thing that makes it hard about using samples versus a virtual kit. And then, of course, clap impact. And then my basic mastering chain, you guys are probably already familiar with it. Only thing different was I threw some default soothe on it and dialed it back a bit. And that's all that's in here, I think. So let's listen to what the whole thing sounds like together. And yeah, that's what it sounds like. If you guys have enjoyed this, please hit subscribe. And if you're interested in other videos like this, check out the one that I did a couple of weeks ago where I showed you how to produce like Bring Me the Horizon. See you guys next Thursday.